What's up, guys?
Welcome to, what are we? We're the Cinehorde.
Yeah.
And today we're going to do something a little different. I'm taking a film genre class and it just so happens that the genre for the semester is horror, so we opened the class by watching a documentary on horror films. And this is my third time seeing the same documentary. This was your first, so I kind of
Yeah.
want to know what you think. So what do you think of the documentary?
So the documentary, is it An American Nightmare or The American Nightmare? An American Nightmare. It's about, I like it because it puts horror films within a historical context, like the Civil Rights Movement and Vietnam and the sexual revolution, which I feel this documentary goes more in depth than a lot of other documentaries.
Definitely.
Like I'm thinking about Nightmares in Red, White, and Blue.
Yeah. Which was another really good documentary.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, that one's a good one too. But I thought that the interviews with the directors were pretty insightful because you find out they have gone through some stuff.
Speaking of directors, who's being interviewed in this documentary?
So you got Wes Craven, George Romero, David Cronenberg, John Carpenter, Tom Savini. Well, he's not a director, but he's a
really well-known art director and makeup artist. He's incredible. Anybody who's ever watched The Walking Dead, or maybe like Day of the Dead or Dawn of the Dead, the originals.
Yep.
He did a lot of effects work on those films. He's incredible.
Yeah, so all those interviews were pretty well done. Yeah, it was kind of like, yeah, these are part of film history. They're important works of art.
It's a lot of information. Unlike a lot of other documentaries that try to be about horror films, they usually just cover history.
Yeah.
But this actually gave you insight into how, like, a horror filmmaker, makeup artists included, because without them there would be no horror.
Yeah.
Like, let's just face it. It gave you a lot of insight into why they do what they do and how they do what they do.
Yeah.
And I feel like horror largely is a disrespected genre. Like,
yeah, it is.
There's a reason it hadn't won an Academy Award before Get Out.
Yeah, well, like even in literature, Gothic novels are treated as trash novels, basically.
I forgot about that. They were the equivalent of like dime store,
like Dracula
novels.
and Frankenstein. But yeah, that's like a comparison of media. So I feel like horror films get the same disrepute.
Disrespect.
Disrepute.
Yeah. Well, that works too, because bad reputation, disrepute.
Yeah,
it's just a funny word.
People just think like, oh, these are gore fests, oh, they're sexual violence against women, and all that.
You know, so like the sad thing is, that's what I see horror kind of becoming.
Yeah, like they're just going with like those criticisms, be like, yeah,
being
we are
like
about
that's what
that.
we are.
But these older films were trying to like reflect something that was going on at the time in this country and the world.
Yeah, and I mean, okay, so I don't know how many of you watching this will know me in real life, but I'm not really a fan of Get Out, for example. Like, I thought, to me, the acting wasn't there. It was like a cross between a B-movie and a Saturday Night Live skit to me. If you just look at the quality of the acting, I know a lot of you are going to hate me for that. It's whatever. That being said, I did appreciate greatly the fact that Jordan Peele was trying to comment on something that is currently going on and being experienced by a large segment of the population in the United States, which is, to me, part of the heart of what horror does. We talk a lot about, psychological bullshit, so how does horror tie into psychological bullshit for you?
Psychological, like, Carl Jung or Freud,
whatever,
or psychological and like
both, all. It doesn't matter.
Well, something interesting that I was thinking about while watching this is one of the interviews mentioned how films like Halloween are kind of puritanical in a weird sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the people who die in these films, they enjoy like sexual and excess and substance abuse and all that.
Right, and they're the first ones to die.
Yeah, so it makes the killer seem a bit like an avenging type of archetype.
Like an avenging angel, sort of.
Yeah, so I was just kind of thinking like these films kind of reflect a certain morality, or you can interpret it that way if you want.
I mean, it's kind of hard not to notice that, even if you don't take an overall interpretation that leans that way.
Yeah, which made me think like art does kind of serve a purpose like that I feel is missing at times.
And the funny thing along those lines that I thought of is that in that sense, late 60s and early 70s horror films are very much like fairy tales.
Yeah.
Because fairy tales were supposed to teach kids to stay the hell out of the woods because dangerous things exist there, or whatever else, like don't talk to strangers, blah blah blah. And Friday the 13th and the Halloween films, or Halloween proper, I should say, embody that sense that horror is kind of like an inverted morality tale.
Yeah.
Like the danger comes to you because of what you've done rather than you going into danger, right?
Yeah.
So I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, same. And it just horror reflects a lot of things we don't really talk about in media and society a lot.
Right. So
yeah.
I started thinking, like, what if horror could be used as a tool for self-actualization, right?
Yeah.
Because if you take the Jungian model, the idea of the collective unconscious and the shadow self and, our conscious mind, a lot of what horror movies explore and why people love getting scared by them is because it gives you an opportunity to confront your own dark side, but it's been symbolized for you. It's been transformed into something you can look at and be detached from, but you still connect with it on that really visceral emotional level, unless you're a cheap horror movie that uses jump scares.
Yeah.
And that's all you know how to do. The Nun.
Yeah.
I didn't like that movie. I watched it and decided not to review it. But yeah, I mean, that's what horror to me, like, I do think that those kinds of movies should perform those functions because I think those are, like, vital for healthy psychological adaptation and shit like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a pretty good point. But, yeah.
Anything else? I mean, dudes, so in the description I'm going to leave links to An American Nightmare and Nightmares in Red, White, and Blue. They're available on YouTube to watch. I'm going to leave links to those because I do think that if you are a horror fan, you'll appreciate both documentaries. And if you think that horror is just a name drivel and an excuse for a ton of gore, and you think it's gratuitous, this might actually give you another way of looking at horror as a genre. And I think that going through that, even though you might not like to admit it, is a valuable experience to have. So I'm going to leave links to those in the description. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's all I gotta say.
Also, our movie blog is at CinehordeReview.wordpress.com. Go check that out. That'll be in the description. It's always in the description. And bye for now, and we'll see you at the movies.
Yep.
Bye.